Who was Galileo and who killed him? Welcome to yet another beautiful day and to the fifth episode on the attitudes for effective communication. In this episode, we will understand why it is important to create connections which creates lasting impression and changing the perception that the first impression is the best impression. This is the episode where we discuss the importance of developing perspectives and changing perceptions. Galileo Galilei was an Italian astronomer, physicist, and mathematician, often known as the father of modern science. He was one of the first to combine careful observation, experimentation, and mathematical reasoning, the core of science today. He revolutionized astronomy and established the foundations of modern physics, that of space exploration, that of aviation that we enjoy today. His studies and discoveries proved that Earth was just another planet and revolved around the Sun. And it is for this discovery that he was put under house arrest for 9 years until his death. His studies and discovery disproved the perception of the society and the Roman Church, which had the authority and believed that the earth was the center of everything. And he was sentenced to house arrest. Now remember, this is the very same church which was found on the teachings of a man who was crucified and killed by those days society and authority because he was acting or teaching against the prevalent perceptions in those times. This example was used not to hurt the emotions or feelings of anyone. This was intended to help you understand that perception kills and perspective understands. In every day of our life, in those communications that we make, we rely a lot on our thoughts, emotions, and judgments. We predict the outcome of certain conversations and situations based on these three. If you have watched my previous video, we discussed about stoicism, where one needs to control emotions, thoughts, and judgments. This means that when we have control over our emotions, thoughts, and judgments, we are transforming ourselves from perception to perspectives. Perception is assumption and interpretation. It is also the story you created and the one that you believe. Whereas perspective is taking responsibility, is being accountable. To understand and to differentiate perception and perspective, let's take an example. Imagine in your mind the dress, the emotion, the body language, and the face of a lady who is informing you the death of her husband. Imagine the lady telling you her husband's funeral is tomorrow. Now, our interpretation, assumption, or judgment, in general, our perception of this lady will be having a sad face, clad in a black dress, face drowsy with those tears. This is the first impression of a person who is mourning the death of a dear one. In the industry I am involved with, it is normal to discuss with people of all ages and deal with their everyday normal life and life-changing circumstances. I expressed my condolences to this lady, and as we discussed more, she informed me to my shock that the funeral of her husband is tomorrow. This was against my interpretation, assumption, or judgment of a person who is mourning the death of a dear one. This lady was taking control of the situation, accepting the same. In the previous episode, we discussed about stoicism, where we should control our emotions, our thoughts, and judgments. And we should also accept what is not in our control. This is when we change from perception to perspective. When one starts communicating on the basis of perceptions, the chances of those conversations to fail are on the higher side. This is because you don't have control over your emotions, thoughts, and judgments, and hence you are not ready to accept those outcomes and results. And because you don't have control over the things that you need to control, you create a story, and that story you believe is the only truth. Relying on perception is always dangerous. The chances of conversations failing is extremely high when you rely on perception, because perception is the story you made and the one that you believe. Imagine that you're involved in a situation, a challenge, or a conversation which is disproving your belief or the story that you created. As in the example we cited initially, we start dictating terms and take authority of the situation because we are not ready to accept the outcome of the conversation or the situation. If your conversations are more in line with a teacher-student relation, a boss-subordinate relation, the chances of you relying more on your perceptions is on the higher end. The problem out here is connections don't get established when you rely on perception. We all would have had a lot of teachers in our life. But if you were asked who was your best teacher, you will only have a few names to it. And you will immediately be able to explain a lot about what connection you had with the teacher. We all will have a lot to talk and discuss about that teacher. This is because the teacher created a lasting impression in our minds with the conversations we had with them. This is because their conversations with us were not on the basis of perceptions. They were the people who took accountability and responsibility for every conversation they had with us. When you communicate on the basis of perspective, you start to become more understanding. You take responsibility for the words and actions that you put forward. In your mind, create an image of a weightlifting champion. The first impression that comes to your body is that of an extremely healthy person, full of muscles, bold face, and strong voice. Imagine that person speaking to you. Hi, I'm the world's strongest man. Nice to meet you. Remember, first impression could be the best impression, but lasting impression is the connection that you make with the person. In the next episode, we'll find out how one can develop an attitude of perspectives to be an effective communicator. I'll see you there, possible with JB.